A couple is having their intimate moment in mid-afternoon. The sound of skin slapping, their moan and groan and echoing around the whole room. The weather is cold today. It's drizzling outside. There is water on the road due to rain. Meanwhile, his black shiny boots splash the water which is mixed with the blood. He look at the dead body laying on the cold road. How many people got killed till now, officer? Park Jimmy, the new officer in charge in the town, asked the constable. Clive. 19, he replied. Jimin. 19 people get killed in this town in 3 months and you couldn't even catch the killer yet? Clive looked down as he doesn't have any answer. It's a small town which is full of criminals. No one cares about who died here. The previous officer never investigate in any case, but this new one is looking strict. Jimin. We need to catch the killer at any cost, he said, looking at the dead body which turned white. There's a big hole in his chest as if someone take out all his blood from that hole. His eyes roll back and his heart is missing. After one last thrust, he released his liquid inside her. Taehyung fall on bed beside Y or N. He looked at her and saw she was panting heavily. After sometimes Taehyung get up from the bed and wear a bathrobe. He take the birth control pill and give it to Y and Taehyung. Y or N take this. Y or N take the pill and put it inside her mouth. Taehyung pecked her forehead and went inside the bathroom for taking shower. Y or N look at the direction and wait until Taehyung closed the bathroom door. She take out the pill from her mouth and throw it outside the window. It's been 1 year of their marriage and Y or N badly wants a baby now. She talked about this to Taehyung many times, but he doesn't agree to have a baby. But she's having baby fever seeing her neighbor's child and now she badly wants to be a mother. So she's throwing the birth control pills to conceive. Taehyung was reading the newspaper when Y or N came and give him his tea. She sit on the chair opposite him. Taehyung was sipping his tea when Y or N spoke suddenly. Y or N, do you know another dead body was found yesterday? He hummed while reading the newspaper. Y or N, you often stay out at night. I'm scared. Taehyung, please stop going outside at night. What if something happened to you? Taehyung looked at Y or N in her eyes and spoke. Taehyung, don't worry, nothing will happen to me, he said with full confidence, but still YN's worry doesn't decrease a bit. Y or N, you now a new officer in charge come to this town and he promised that he'll catch the killer soon. Taehyung choke on his tea after hearing this. Y or N quickly run to him and started rubbing his back. Y or N, are you alright? She asked with a worried tone. He just nodded. Y or N noticed his eyes turn red. Jimin. So what did you find about the victim Clive? Clive, his name is Paul. Paul's wife died last year. After that he never went on any relationship. That night he was going home after visiting his wife's grave and then he got killed. Jimin, are you sure he doesn't went into any relationship? What about his sex life? Clive, Sir Paul was a 60-years-old senior citizen. He doesn't have sex for years and he stayed home most of the time. And the neighbors never saw him bringing a girl home. Jimin, what about his family? Clive, he doesn't had any family. Jimin, no wife, no girlfriend, no family, but we found a packet of birth control pills near his dead body. Do you know whom it belongs to? He asked Clive with a playful smirk on his lips. Clive, probably the killer. Sitting on the bed, resting her hands on her cheeks, Y or N was staring at her husband with an annoyed expression. Who's looking for something inside his pocket? Y or N, did you find it? Taehyung, not yet. Y or N, maybe you forget to buy that. Taehyung, no. Y or N, I clearly remember I brought birth control pills 2 days ago. Y or N, then I think you dropped it somewhere. Now come here. We don't need it. Taehyung, no. Y or N, you need to take the pills. Y or N scoffed and get down from the bed. She walked towards Taehyung and pulled him towards her. She attached her lips with his and started kissing him while her hand was unbuttoning his shirt. Taehyung broke the kiss and hold her wrists to stop her from unbuttoning his shirt. Taehyung, no. Y or N, we can't do it without the pills. What if you get pregnant? Y or N, then it'll be a good news, right? A little baby will come who'll call you dad and me mom. Taehyung, no. Y or N, we can't have a baby. Y or N, why? You said you want a baby badly in our wedding night, then what happened to you now? Don't you love me anymore, Taehyung? Taehyung, why you ask the same question again and again every single day? I'm tired of answering you. Y or N, No, I think you're tired of me. You don't want to stay with me anymore, right? You're planning to leave me, right? That's why you're distancing yourself from me. That's why you act cold with me nowadays, right? Tell me, Taehyung, don't you love me anymore? Taehyung, why or N just shut the fuck up. You're giving me headache. He shouted, making her flinch. Taehyung leave the room after closing the door loudly. Why or N fall on the bed and started crying. Taehyung sit on the couch and his head fall back. He rubbed his forehead. Everything messed up because of his one mistake. Their life, their happiness, everything. He also wanted a child with her, but he couldn't risk an innocent soul's life. After some times he calmed down a little and went back to their bedroom. He saw Yn is sitting on the bed hugging her knees. He sit beside her on the bed and spoke. Taehyung, I'm sorry. Yn, me too. I said too much. Taehyung, no Yn, it's alright. It's my fault that I started acting cold towards you, but let me tell you I love you and will love you till the rest of my life. Yn look at Taehyung and hold his cheeks. Yn, you won't leave me, right? Taehyung, never. Yn, then please let's have a baby. I want to see a little version of us. Taehyung looked at her pleading eyes and saw how much desperate she's to be a mother. He placed his hands above hers, which is resting on his cheeks. He kissed her lips and they slowly laid down on the bed. Next morning, Jimin was going to his office when Taehyung come out from the house to collect the newspaper. Jimin noticed his neighbor and smile at him. Jimin, good morning. Taehyung just nodded his head and went inside the house. He closed the door in Jimin's face. Jimin, rude. Jimin and Clive went to the drugstores to investigate. There's total 5 pharmacies in this small town. Jimin, so that night 7 people buy birth control pills from these 3 pharmacies, he said, making circles on the map. Jimin, so the killer maybe lived near the areas where these pharmacies are located. We need to investigate there. Clive, 1 pharmacy is located near your house, sir. Jimin, and that's the plus point. Jimin doesn't go to office today. He decided to do a secret investigation on his neighbors. So there's total 3 houses around his home. An old lady live in his next door, and a couple live in the opposite side of road. And beside the couple's house, another family live there. Husband, wife, and their 5 children. All the ladies are out, so it'll be easy for him to investigate. First, he walked towards the old lady. Mrs. Warren was watering the plants when Jimin went to her and start talking. Jimin, it's beautiful sunny day, right? Mrs. Warren looked at Jimin and nodded with a little smile. Jimin, you live alone in this town, don't you feel afraid? Mrs. Warren, fear. This feeling isn't made for me. Jimin, but still, you know that a serial killer is roaming in this town, right? Mrs. Warren laughed a little and looked at Jimin. Mrs. Warren, you come here to know about him, right? She looked around and lowered her voice. Mrs. Warren, he wake up at night to quench his bloodthirst. Jimin, who? Mrs. Warren, the demon. I can see his presence in her. Jimin, okay, see you later, Mrs. Warren. He quickly leave his house while thinking this lady is crazy. Yn was talking with her neighbor, Mrs. Smith, sitting in her lawn. Mrs. Smith is continuously talking about her husband and 5 kids. Yn noticed their new neighbor. The police officer is coming towards them with a smile. Jimin, good morning, ladies. Both of them smile and greet Jimin. Jimin, may I join you, ladies? Mrs. Smith, sure. Jimin, so what were you talking about? Yn, just some random stuffs. Jimin looked at Mrs. Smith's kids who were playing in the grass. Jimin, it's hard to raise 5 children together, right? Mrs. Smith, it is actually, but me and my husband both loves kids a lot. Jimin, it doesn't mean that you'll make a soccer team. He mumbled, but Mrs. Smith doesn't hear it. Yn chuckled a little as it was audible to her. Mrs. Smith, how did you said something? Jimin, no. Suddenly he noticed her small baby bump. Jimin, are you expecting again? Mrs. Smith nodded, rubbing her baby bump. Jimin's thought, it means she doesn't buy the pills. Yn, can I ask you something? Did you catch the killer yet? Jimin, not yet, but soon he or she will be behind the bar. Mrs. Smith, that's a relief. We couldn't even go out at night because of fear since 3 months. Yn, yes, this town is scary. If I'd know about it, I'd stop my husband to shift in this town 3 months ago. Jimin quickly looked at Yn after hearing her. Jimin, You and your husband come here 3 months ago? YN nodded. YRN, and my husband often come home late from office. Jimin, what work does your husband do? Y or N, he's a software engineer. Jimin, oh, his office must be far from here. Y or N, yes, but he work from home since we shifted here. Sometimes he have to go to office to submit some project papers. Jimin, alright, thanks for giving me time, ladies. I'll see you later. Jimin went to Taehyung's office and got to know. He stops coming in office regularly 3 months ago and is working from home, just like Y or N said. But he comes to office once in a month to submit papers. But Y or N said he often come late at night. And beside, why he suddenly moved to that old town, living this big city. He even sell his house at a cheaper price. And then everything started happening after he moved here with his wife. Jimin, something is wrong with that Kim guy. He's suspicious, Clive. We need to keep an eye on him. Y or N jumped on Taehyung and hugged him tightly in happiness. Inside her fist in a positive pregnancy test, Taehyung wrapped his hands around her with a tiny smile. No matter how much he wants to be father, he couldn't become happy hearing the good news. He isn't happy knowing he's going to be a father. Instead, he's scared and worried. A storm is happening inside him. Y or N, what are you thinking? Taehyung, nothing serious. Y or N, I'm going to call mom, dad, and others to give the good news. Y or N take her phone and walk away from Taehyung to tell their close relatives about her pregnancy. Taehyung and Y or N were having their dinner silently. Y or N noticed Taehyung isn't eating anything. He's just playing with the food while thinking something deeply. He became more silent after hearing about her pregnancy. Y or N knows he doesn't wanted a child, but now she's pregnant already. He should at least pretend to be happy. Y or N, Tae, what happened? Don't you like the food? Taehyung, no, it's good. Y or N, Taehyung, I know you doesn't want to have a baby right now, but I'm already pregnant with your child and you have to accept it. Taehyung, Y or N, please, I don't want to talk about this matter right now. Saying that, he left from there without eating his dinner. Y or N looked down and mumbled. Y or N, I get it. You don't love me anymore. Jimin, what? But sir, I'm in the middle of a case. Can I go after solving it? Yes, sir. It's important. Sign. Okay, fine. I'll go there. Jimin cut the phone call and saw Clive is looking at him with curious gaze. Jimin, my senior called me. He wants me to go on a mission. I won't be here for 1 year. Clive, what about the case, sir? Jimin, another officer will come in my place. He'll look after the case with you. Y or N, Taehyung, he hummed while working on his PC. Y or N, mom called me today and suggests me to stay at her place till I give birth. Taehyung, you're not going anywhere. Y or N, but she said she want to take care of me during my pregnancy and I also want to go. I'm missing my parents. Taehyung's hands stopped typing on the keyboard. He looked at Y or N with his burning gaze. Taehyung, you're not going anywhere, did you get it? Y or N looked down, avoiding his gaze, and nodded slowly. Taehyung, good, now go to the room and take rest. Before going, Jimin meet all the neighbors to say goodbye. He went to Y or N, who's standing beside Mrs. Smith. Jimin, I heard you're having a baby. Y or N, yes, she said with a smile. Jimin, it was planned or you get pregnant suddenly? He asked, making Y or N frown. Y or N, excuse me? Jimin, I'm sorry. I was just asking randomly. He laughed. YN, the baby is planned. I want to have a baby for so long, so yeah. Jimin, oh, good to hear. Congratulations, by the way. Y or N, can't you submit the project report online? You know, the situation of this town is getting worse. People are getting killed brutally at night, she said, gulping down the whole water from the bottle. It's 10 a.m. at morning and she already drank 3 liters of water till now. Taehyung, I need to go. Y or N, it's important and I promise I'll be fine and will come back to you. Y or N, but I'm scared. Taehyung, don't worry, I'll stay at a hotel at night and will come back in morning. Y or N, okay then, but don't come to this town at night. Taehyung, don't worry. He pecked her forehead and go outside the house. But he doesn't went to office nor he leave the town. He was hiding their backyard and started waiting for the night to come. The next day another bloodless dead body was found in the town. The reason of the dead is same. Someone take out his heart and squeeze all the blood from his body. But there's not a single drop of blood around his body, as if the blood vanished in air. Yn opened her eyes and saw Taehyung is sleeping next to her. Maybe he come back in the morning. She yawned and stretched her arms before going to the bathroom to freshen up. Yn was making breakfast when Mrs. Smith come. Mrs. Smith, another dead body was found in the morning. Yn gasp, what are you saying? Mrs. Smith, yes, I don't think it's possible to live in this town, but where will we go with our 5 kids? We don't have money to buy or rent a new house somewhere else. Mrs. Smith, but why are you staying here? Your husband earned enough to afford a new house. Yn, you're right. We're not staying here anymore. I'll talk to Taehyung. I can't give birth in this cursed town. Taehyung opened his eyes hearing some sounds. He looked at the direction and saw Yn is packing their stuffs. Taehyung, what are you doing? Yn, we have to leave this town. Taehyung, we're not leaving. Put the stuffs back to its place. Yn, we can't stay here. Taehyung, this place is dangerous. Another human died last night. Taehyung, still we're not leaving. Yn, I'll not listen to you this time. I don't know why we even staying here. There's nothing in this place instead of criminals. Taehyung walked towards Yn and started putting their stuffs back to its place. Yn, what are you doing? Taehyung doesn't reply. He was just undoing Yn's work. Yn, tell me honestly, Taehyung, what are you exactly doing, huh? Why did you bring me in this place? We were happy in our previous house, then what happened to you suddenly? Taehyung, Yn, I can't give you answer any of your questions. Yn, why? What are you hiding? What are you doing behind my back? Don't tell me you're doing something terrible. Taehyung still doesn't reply, making her more angry. Yn, okay fine, do whatever you want, but I will not stay here at any cost. Saying that, she snatched her clothes from Taehyung's hand and put it inside the bag. Taehyung walked near her and held her forearms tightly, making her whimper in pain. Taehyung, we are not going anywhere, did you get it? He shouted and pushed her on the bed before leaving. Yn, I hate you, Taehyung, she screamed while crying. Yn stopped talking with Taehyung after that day. She's now 3 months pregnant and her health is getting worse every single day. She couldn't eat anything. Every time she tried to eat something, she just vomited. At first they thought it's normal in pregnancy, but situation started getting worse. Yn lose a lot weight in just 1 week. Taehyung had his enough, so he tried to take her to the doctor, but she just yelled at him. Yn, you don't have to show me your fake concern. Taehyung, I'm asking you for the last time. Yn, let's go to the hospital. Yn, why do you care, huh? It'll be relief for you if I die. Taehyung sighed and walked towards her and carried her bridal style. Yn, what are you doing? Put me down right now. Taehyung didn't listen to her and take her to the hospital. Doctor, I think she's eating or drinking something which her body cannot digest, the doctor said, making Taehyung's heartbeat rise. He started sweating. Yn, on the other hand, looked at the doctor being confused. Yn, but doctor, I couldn't eat or drink anything, not even water. Doctor, you have to come here twice in a week for checkup. Your child is also weak. After so many difficulties and hard times, Yn finally gave birth to a little girl. The baby was weak, so the doctor take her for observation. The first thing Taehyung said, carried the baby in his arm, was, I'll protect you from that monster at any cost, I promise, my princess. He kissed the baby's little forehead with teary eyes. Yn was beyond happy. She spent her whole day talking and playing with her daughter. Their relatives also come to see the baby, but Taehyung doesn't let them stay here for even 1 day. He literally kicked them out, which makes all of them upset and Yn angry. Like this, 3 months passed. Jimin come back from the mission and now he's super angry and frustrated. He's yelling at Clive. Jimin, 1 year. You couldn't even solve the case in 1 year and here you're giving me the list of death people. Clive, yes sir. The new officer run away saying a demon is doing all this and he'll kill everyone. Jimin, nonsense. Jimin was walking here and there inside his room. He couldn't sleep. He need to solve this case as soon as possible. He take out the case file and was studying it again and again. Suddenly his gaze fall on the window and he saw Taehyung is going somewhere at this hour. Jimin, Today I'll catch this man red-handed. Jimin come outside from the house and started following Taehyung from far. After 5 minutes, he lost him. Jimin rested his hands on his waist and started looking around. Then he saw Taehyung. He was hiding behind a wall and was looking somewhere. His back was facing Jimin. Jimin slowly walked behind him, but suddenly he heard a loud painful scream. He quickly run towards the wall and stand behind Taehyung. He followed Taehyung's gaze and his whole body tremble in shock and disgust seeing the scene in front of him. In yellow light of street lamps he saw Yn. She take out a man's heart with her bare hands and was drinking his blood from the hole on his chest. It took him 5 minutes to process the scene in front of him. Then he said, making Taehyung flinch and look back at him, "Jimin. Unbelievable. She's a total psycho." Taehyung. You? Jimin finally found the psycho killer, saying that he walked towards Yn. Taehyung. No wait. Don't go near her right now. Jimin hold Yn's wrist from behind and forcefully dragged her away from her prey. Yn scream in anger. Jimin, your game is over, Mrs. Yn. Yn look at Jimin with anger in her eyes. Her messy hairs were covering her face and her mouth and hands were full of blood. She freed herself from Jimin's grip and crawled towards the dead body to drink blood again. Jimin was about to go to her, but Taehyung stopped him. Taehyung, don't stop her right now. Jimin, you'll also go to the jail for saving this killer. Saying that, he walked towards Yn again and pulled her away from the dead body. This time Yn jumped on Jimin. She tried to rip his heart out and Taehyung doesn't stop her. Cause if Jimin stay alive, he won't let his wife live. Yn dig her nails in Jimin's chest, making him bleed. He was trying his best to get out from her grip, but she's 2 times stronger than him. Suddenly he found a stone near his hand. Jimin take the stone and hit Yn on her head with all his strength. Blood started dripping from the side of her head. She slowly fall on Jimin's chest. Taehyung, what have you done? He yelled and ran towards Yn. He pulled her away from Jimin and placed her head in his lap. Taehyung, I'll kill you if something happened to my wife. Jimin, your wife was about to do the same thing with me, he said, and stand straight. Taehyung carried Yn bridal style and started walking towards home. Jimin followed him from behind. Taehyung carefully laid Yn down on the bed and treat the wound on her head. Jimin, look, I know she's your wife and you love her, but she's a criminal. You can't save her. She killed lots of people and she deserves death as punishment. Taehyung, she's not a criminal. My wife is innocent. She doesn't kill anyone, it's the demon inside her. He is killing the people, not my wife. Jimin, you and your wife both need psychiatrist. Your wife is a psycho killer and you're psycho in love. Taehyung doesn't said anything. He was just caressingYn's cheeks. Jimin take out his phone to call other officers. He have to arrest both of them. Suddenly, Jimin felt a sharp pain in the back of his head. He yelped in pain and looked back, only to see Taehyung standing there with a flower vase which have his blood on it. Jimin tremble and fall on the floor. Taehyung, I'm sorry, but it was necessary to save my wife. Taehyung dragged Jimin's unconscious body to the storeroom and tied him with a rope. Taehyung, I need to leave this town with my wife and daughter before morning. Taehyung locked Jimin in the storeroom and went to the kitchen to drink water. Yn opened her eyes and look around. She's still thirsty, very thirsty. She needs to drink something to quench her thirst. Yn sit on the bed and tugged her hairs behind her ear. She look around the room, and then her eyes fall on the little figure sleeping peacefully on her crib.Yn's eyes turn yellow in a blink. She lick her lower lips. She needs blood, more blood. Yn walked towards the crib and peeked at the baby. She take the baby in her arms and placed her blood-red hand in the baby's chest.